Understanding supply and demand. What is it? Why should you care about it when it comes to real estate investing? That's today's show. Let's dive into it. Hey everyone, I'm Clayton Morris, longtime real estate investor. I focus on passive income and I want to help people achieve financial freedom. And I hope you will subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. And if you want to achieve financial freedom, there's a simple way to do it. It's to create passive income, monthly passive income. And the vehicle that we use is real estate investing. And you can do it in other ways, of course, Bitcoin and mobile home parks and billboards and commercial real estate, multifamily, nursing home. You can do it. You can do it all sorts of different ways. The way that I do it, though, is residential real estate. I like those 900 square foot homes, those 1,000 square foot homes, those 800 square foot homes, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, in those nice blue collar working class neighborhoods. And that's the bulk of everything that I buy. And it's been consistent for me for many, many years, and it's enabled me to achieve financial freedom. So one of the key things that you must look at when you're starting to invest in real estate, and if you're going to do it yourself and you're going to invest in your own backyard, or you're thinking about different areas to invest and you're just breaking the surface of sticking your toe into the water of real estate investing, a key thing that you need to understand is supply and demand. At its most simple, supply and demand is just the amount of rental properties available to rent. That's it. So if there's a demand for rental properties, how many are there? And are there enough to meet that demand for people that want to rent? And so I like to go in areas where the supply is low and the demand is high. Fortunately, the neighborhoods and areas that I invest in Michigan and Indiana and Pennsylvania and North Carolina and other places have a high demand for rent. Now, it doesn't have to be through the roof, but no pun intended, but I like to make sure that if I own this property, that the occupancy rate, the vacancy rate is going to be very low. I don't want that property sitting vacant for 6 months. And that can happen, and we're going to dive into 3 key metrics that we need to understand when we look at supply and demand. But that can happen in an area where you have an oil refinery is the only employer in town, and the employer then leaves, and that oil refinery shuts down, and your apartment complex that you bought that has 10 units, suddenly all of those people that worked at the oil refinery are out of a job, and guess what? You are now out of tenants in your rental property. So that's a key area to look at. The first key metric is employment, and we just talked a little bit about that, but I want to know that there are good American-based jobs that are growing and that there's a demand for my rental properties because guess what? More people are moving to the area and they need a job and they're able to find jobs. So employment. So what do we look for in employment? I like to say that America is a place that loves getting things delivered in boxes, right? We love our Amazon boxes, right? We love things showing up at our house. Well, there's an incredible demand right now for that type of labor, and Amazon distribution centers that are opening that need employment, that need quality employment. There are FedEx distribution centers that are opening, hospitals, high schools, health centers, those types of places where they are employing American-based jobs. Those FedEx distribution centers, it would be impossible for them to go overseas. Why? Right? Because the long haul FedEx trucks that are driving across the country delivering boxes and goods to our country, it has to be stationed here. The hospital has to be stationed here. You can't outsource a hospital, although I'm sure if they could figure out a way they might. But the employment, the nurses that work at those hospitals that rent from me, or the local high school. I have a principal of one of a high school that lives in one of my rental properties. So these types of employers that are American-based employment centers that are growing, where you're seeing the shopping centers and areas are opening. So I want those types of employment centers. Again, I do not want the one trick pony oil refinery. It's the only employer in the whole area. And guess what happens if that employer goes out of business? Then your house sits vacant. So in the areas where I like to invest, again, in Michigan and Indiana and Pennsylvania and North Carolina and Florida and where else? Oh, and I own some properties in New Jersey. Near areas where we have steady American-based employment. That's very, very important. Number 2 on our list is population. I want to be near areas where there's a good, steady population and population growth. So when you look at areas like Los Angeles, or I lived in Redondo Beach, California for a while when I was starting out my TV career and had to drive up the 405 freeway to get to the local Fox affiliate in West LA. It's a densely packed area. And rental property was just packed. I mean, it's a terrible place for a return on investment. Don't get me wrong, ROI. However, there's so many people there, you're not going to have a problem finding someone to rent a property, right? So what also gives way to population is, and very important, is the type of sort of persona of the area. So, for instance, I'm in New Jersey. There's a place nearby called Maplewood, New Jersey. It's a cute little downtown. It's got a train stop. It has a bunch of coffee shops, restaurants, clothing stores, toy stores, pizza place, ice cream parlor. Families gather there. It's a great little place. So that place has a lot of charm. It has a lot of persona, and it's been there for a long time, right? So those areas that have been there for a long time, they have an established history. The population tends to stay. It's not going away, especially when you have those types of jobs, those types of employment that are in those areas. I mean, you've got a train stop that takes you to Manhattan. That's what I'm talking about. However, I would not invest in Maplewood, New Jersey, because it's way overpriced, and therefore my return on investment is not there. But you get my point, right? Well, I'm talking about supply and demand, that they're building new townhomes along the train station so that people can move out of Manhattan, because it's the most expensive real estate market in the country, and they can live 30, 40 minutes outside of Manhattan and commute to work if they now have a child. They want a little bit more freedom. They don't want to live in a tiny 500 square foot apartment in Manhattan. So just some things to think about when you think about population. You can think about casinos. You can think about overpasses, highways that are being built, expansion. So if you can look at those areas and say, well, okay, they're building a new corridor, a new highway in this particular area, and people are going to now get on this off-ramp and go this way. Well, this is pretty convenient to get to the train station or public transportation. This might be a good area to invest if you see that expansion. So just pay attention to those things, and pay attention to population growth and population density. And the third most important factor when looking at supply and demand is location. We always hear location, location, location. But what does that mean? Well, in high-end real estate in Manhattan, it could be waterfront property, right? It could be near the financial district. It could be near a good subway line. It could be near Central Park. Location, location. But it can also mean areas like I like to invest, right? Near decent schools, near good public transportation, near steady employment, blue-collar, hardworking employment jobs that are available for individuals, right? In safe neighborhoods. So those key areas of location also important. So typically you're going to see in a rundown F-class area bombed out homes where every house on the block is boarded up and no one lives there. There's no access to public transportation. There are no jobs. Guess what? I'm not going to be investing in that area. I want areas that I know I can rent, and rent pretty quickly, because of the demand, the supply and demand. So those are 3 key metrics to look for when you're looking at supply and demand, and it makes up the bulk of everything that I rent and own. I have tenant turnovers on, I think, 4 of my rental properties right now, and they will rent up very fast because they are in locations that there is a high demand for rent. There you go. I hope you will subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for taking some time out and learning about financial freedom. If you would like to download our free Freedom Cheat Sheet, it's so easy to do. It's free. Just go to our page right here, click on this, or you can go to morrisinvest.com/freedom. You download it. It walks you through figuring out all of your expenses and how to reverse engineer that with passive income. Real estate is how we do it. You can do it any way you want. But taking that passive income, covering your monthly expenses so you can live financially free every month. We'll see you next time here on the channel, everyone. Now, in the meantime, go out there, take action, become a real estate investor. I believe it's the #1 way to build wealth. Try it, and don't argue with me.